The following is an interview I had with Sherwyn Williams, author of The Adventures of Jada series of books. Greetings, listeners. Welcome to the program. Today we are hosting Sherwyn Williams. Sherwyn is a visual artist, graphic designer, creative director, content creator, and he's also Trinidadian. Welcome to the program, Sherwyn.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, Sherwyn, before we start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? The stuff that we won't find on LinkedIn or Facebook or anything.
Well, a little about me. Well, you know what? To be honest, I love anything creative. So one day I hope to be making film, graphic novels, more books. I'm a visual artist, so I grew up learning to be a fine artist, painting, drawing, all those fun stuff. And that just kind of leaked over into illustration. But I always had a love for art and creating. So that basically sums me up. Also, I love music. If I had the opportunity to create music, I would do that as well. So anything to do with creating. Other than that, I'm a really chill guy. Love to read, love to watch movies, love to sit and talk about nothing at all. And also galaxy fanatic, movie fanatic, and food fanatic. So yeah.
Okay. Having said all that, one thing I found interesting about the authors who I've interviewed is that, one, some of them aren't full-time authors, but at the same time, even though they're not full-time authors, they seem really well-rounded in a couple of other fields as well. So, seeing that you
Right.
have skills that you would have mentioned there, I have to ask the obvious question. Why writing?
Why writing? Honestly, when I was in secondary school,
Mm-hmm.
that was the age of, the Justice Leagues, the Teen Titans, the Saturday morning WB cartoon thing. And I always, as I said, I love film, I love graphic novels. So I always had the dream of having my own Saturday morning cartoon. Because that was the culture back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always doodle. And one day I just drew Jada on a page.
Ah.
Had no, just drew it, no, the thought didn't go further than the drawing. And I think that was back in 2012. And then I found it again in 2015, 16. And I was like, this could be something.
Mm-hmm.
And I changed her up a little bit and then I digitized her. So I had a digital version of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'll probably learn animation because most of my skills, except for fine arts, were kind of self-taught. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I could probably learn how to do animation. And this, YouTube was huge at the time and tutorials were huge. And then I found myself being kind of lazy about it. And I was like, you know what? I could illustrate. Maybe this could be a book. And then forward to 2019, a writer friend of mine, we linked up, we drafted the idea. I already
Ah.
had multiple story ideas. We just kind of fleshed out the first one and we launched it together. And that's how it came to be. So it started off as this idea for a television show. And if you look at the illustrations, they kind of follow in the way that a show would
Mm-hmm.
because I studied storyboarding while I was doing my associate degree in graphic design
Ah.
and I storyboarded it in a way that it could be translated into a TV show. Because you never know, it may not be too late. It could possibly be a TV show one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So far you've spoken about your inspiration for the book and a little bit about the origins of the character, and
Yeah.
you've spoken a bit about how the book came to be. But, but if it is I'm choosing to follow in your footsteps and kind of put together a book as well, what skills would you recommend that I work on to become to put together material as a writer?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I think oddly enough, things aligned in the weirdest way for me because I always thought I would be a fine artist and, just create fine art and work in that way. Never imagined to be an illustrator in the way that I am now. I would say, for one, I definitely have a hand in every aspect of the creation of my book. If anybody is to come on board, it's to kind of fill in smaller gaps where I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I guess I am a writer in essence and I am a storyteller because of the other skills and I can illustrate and whatnot. So and I think these are all skills that you can develop as an individual. I like to be involved
Yes.
in anything that I do. I'm really, really involved. So for me, I had to brush up on my illustration skills. That took me a good 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
first skill would definitely be patience.
Ah.
The second skill would definitely, be willing to illustrate a little bit. And you don't have to illustrate to the end product of your book. You need to at least be able to put your vision down so that if you hire an illustrator, they could at least view it and have an understanding of what you
Mm-hmm.
want to create.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be stick figures. A lot of times I tell people that and they're like, I can only draw stick figures. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And then you at least need to have digested a lot of the material, similar material to what you want to create
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
order to kind of see how to create along the trend line. You want to create something original, of course, but in the business sense of it should always kind of lead you to what's trending and how to align your original idea with that trend. Yeah. I feel like I'm getting too deep there, but yeah, it's necessary.
No, no, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. I mean, when you were giving the details about how the idea came to be, you mentioned a couple of other persons to help with it. I mean, when
Yeah.
it is that you look back on the inception of the idea and where it is right now, would you say could you have not written the book without?
Um, I would say my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't necessarily involved with the creation of the Adventures of Jada, but she's the first storyteller that I have in my memory. She comes from St. Vincent. She came here in 1981, I believe. And growing up, I spent most of my time with her, and I know all about St. Vincent because of the way that old people have a way they like to sit you down and tell you about. They used to work for the dirt track, and they used to do this, to do the school, and da 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 da. So it's like she's the first storyteller that I'm aware of. And she also, my parents really encouraged me, but she was the one that was like, really kind of shaped my love for storytelling. She would have gotten me my first, like to memory, the first bunch of picture books, because I create picture books
Yeah.
that I can recall really enjoying. To this day, I still laugh at a story called Belinda the Cow, and she got me that book. So I think if she hadn't been involved in the way that she was, I don't think the Adventures of Jada would have existed. Also, back then, anything creative wasn't really like, unless it was Calypso, or which I did sing Calypso too, but
Ah,
anything that wasn't really like celebrated. And she was very adamant that her grandchildren be given the chance to explore the things that they want to, regardless of how popular it was. So,
okay, okay. I mean, you've expounded on a lot. I mean, you've introduced us to other skills that you've had, calypsonian singing as well.
yeah.
Add that to the repertoire of skills that you have. Again, authors that
I
have
don't know if I was any good, eh? I don't
ah,
know.
I mean, experience is just really interesting. That's all. And I could
Yeah.
just say, at least I would just go as far as to say that I would have contributed to the final project or the product, I should say, final
Yes,
product.
for sure. Yeah.
All right. Getting into the book a bit, I mean, The Adventures of Jada. How
Yeah.
many books have you done so far?
I have created 3 storybooks and 1 coloring book so far. Currently working on the 4th storybook, and I'm about to introduce Little Tony, which is about a little boy
Mm-hmm.
who, sees life. As a child, everything is a big adventure,
Mm-hmm.
So he is very wide-eyed, and everything is this massive adventure. The first book really introduces kids to occupations, because it's something that you don't really hear about anymore. Growing up, you always heard about, I want to be a policeman or a fireman, or
Yeah.
I want to fly planes. And I feel like I don't hear it a lot anymore. So I wanted to kind of bring that vibe to it
Yeah.
and really kind of introduce topics like that. So yeah, so 3 storybooks and 1 coloring book so far. More to come.
Ah, okay. Okay. I mean, when it is that we read The Adventures of Jada, you as an author, what do you want
Mhm.
persons to take away from the book? I mean, is it the kind of book where, I mean, is it something for fun? Or is it that you want someone to take away, like maybe like some sort of like, have some sort of moral takeaway from it, to learn a lesson from it?
So personally, I growing up, as I said, my grandmother really kind of filled me up with this idea, or the ideation that you could achieve anything, you could do anything at all, anything you set your mind to. And I'm in love with nostalgia. So
Yeah.
oftentimes when I spend times looking back at stuff, photograph, old shows that we used to look at, you kind of get this sense of your childhood and like how invincible you felt before when you were naive to what the world actually is. And that's kind of what I want kids to take away from this, because Jada's personality is very much, I could do anything and everything is wonderful, and I can make it wonderful if it isn't wonderful. And I want them to feel as if they are just invincible in the sense of their dreams and what they aspire to achieve. Also, a lot of people speak to me about the way that Jada looks, right? And
Mhm.
when I was creating Jada, I didn't necessarily think about what she looked like as a creator in general, like especially while I was being trained. We were trained to kind of create things that were tangible to us, things that we actually experience. So the look of Jada is basically things that I experienced. My mother has really hazel eyes and
Yeah.
naturally brown hair. So when I created those big puffs and these big bright brown eyes, is because I see that all the time.
Yeah.
And now we are living in a time where parents are talking about representation. So when I started doing tours and meeting parents, that was something that really stuck out to me. And now it's something that I take into consideration. Before it was natural. It was like I have to create things I know. But now it's almost like a mission of like I want kids to see themselves. And I want to be honest that it didn't start off that way. It was
Yeah.
honestly while the parents were speaking to me and interacting with me, it was like, okay, this is something I have to pay attention to because it's something that they want. They want their children to see themselves. So yeah, I want them to take away that sense of I can do anything, that invincibility, that really naive. Anything is possible. Because I mean your thoughts kind of guide your actions and your life, and
Yes.
if you're thinking that it is possible, then things should work. So definitely that and really to see a reflection of themselves.
From the book so far, obviously Jada is the main character. Are there any others who you think is interesting, who you really like to write about?
Yes, the last book centers around bullying, and the
Mm-hmm.
bully's name is Peggy. And when people read about Peggy, people had this infatuation with Peggy, and I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why everybody in love with the bully? That's weird. But I've come to realize Peggy is actually such a funny character by design
Yeah.
that wasn't intentional to me. And now that when I create anything involving her, it's actually so fun. And she's kind of changed her ways a little bit. She's no longer a bully. She has tendencies, but
Yeah.
she's so funny in her delivery and just her quirkiness. I have a lot of fun creating Peggy. Also Ravi. Ravi's Jada's best friend and he's East Indian. And I wanted to create somebody that was kind of opposite to Jada because
Yeah.
opposites work in storytelling
Yeah.
and he's scared of everything. He's just a scared little boy. And because of Jada, he's outgoing in her presence because that's his friend and he's along for the ride. And
Mm-hmm.
I really want to show more of that relationship. So I have drafted stories for that. So definitely Ravi, Peggy, and her dad is a scientist, which I did on purpose because we don't hear about black scientists as often as we should.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just imagine all the crazy adventures a scientist could possibly get into. Like, just imagine. So, as a kid, seeing all this, like, green potions, things happening and, mixing of chemicals and, like, just these adventures in space, possibly. I'm excited to create more stuff with the dad, including the dad. And today's Father's Day, so that's great too.
Interestingly enough. Interestingly
Yeah.
enough. So, and I have to say personally, I really like the mindset behind the design of your characters because I mean, I like to read books where the characters are relatable. So, if
Right.
anything, when persons go through the material and say, "Here's what I mean," this guy's a scientist, but I mean, he kind of looks like me. So, is it that he looks like me and he's a scientist? That means that I could be a scientist too. I mean,
Right.
subconsciously, things like that happen. You usually measure yourself against what's there to see if it's possible that you could do certain things.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I really like that and how it is that you approach books like that. Before we spoke and we were talking a bit before, what would you think about if it is that a person or the writing authority looked at your material and said, here's what, we really like the way that your material is set up. We really like the way that it affects persons. We want to incorporate this into our island-wide reading program for children growing up. How would you receive some kind of information like that, one offer like that?
Ooh, honestly, I would be honored. That would be insane. And I'd just be excited and happy. And I'm usually willing to make things work. I would do anything to make that work. I think because one, to be able to contribute in that way to kids, I think would be so fulfilling. And this leads me to mention I had a reading at the Arena Public Library about 2 years ago because we can do public readings
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
of Corona. But I remember introducing the bullying book, and there was a little guy there, and he had such an emotional connection to the material that I had never experienced before. And he had gotten so emotional because he himself was being bullied.
Yeah,
And I was like, didn't expect, a children's book, a picture book, to even bring up that kind of emotion in a child. But then it dawned on me, it works because it's a tool to get children to actually speak up, and see themselves. And if they can't find a solution, at least, come to terms with the fact that there is a situation and there's a good conversation starter for parents too. So if I being able to contribute in that way, if I had received an offer like that, incredible. I don't know what I would do with myself, honestly. But we manifesting. Here's the putting it out there.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it
Yeah.
goes. All right. Well, just another question, and I know we're getting
Hmm.
close to our cutoff time, but just for
Yeah.
the persons out there who have intentions of becoming writers, but who just still trying to figure out how to get it done, is there any advice that you could give them in terms of like a process that they could implement for when it is that they want to write, like maybe a paragraph a day, chapter a day, something like that?
Personally, I think you have to find what works for you. I don't think there's any perfect way to do anything because, for instance, one of my books started off as just sketches, and another book, I get a lot of my ideas while bathing or sleeping. Like I have a dream and I wake up, I sketch it, and that creates its own thing. I think you just have to find the things that work for you. What I will say is find the things that work for you, but that are authentic to you. I think once it comes naturally, let it. And it doesn't have to be on a timeline. And anybody that knows me personally that will hear this will probably chuckle because I'm very much like, when do we end this? When does this start? What's the date for this? Like very, very much that person. But when it comes to creating anything meaningful or fulfilling, I feel like allow it to take its time. Like really just let it come to you. If it doesn't come immediately, that's fine. Whenever it comes, it's perfect timing. Like just trust the process on that. You don't have to write a paragraph a day. If you feel like you don't want to write it, that's fine, but at least work toward being inspired. Listen to music, watch a movie if you have to, take a walk, go on the beach, but allow it to come to you. I would say that for the process, definitely. And do as much research as you possibly can. I think it's good to digest things that exist. Look at the champions, look at the people that are championing that lane. Don't copy them, but look and see what works. What can I take from that? What can I add to my process and really just add it? But can't give, exact, antidotes. Just find what works for you.
Okay, okay. Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Williams has been a very informative and exciting interview, and we did have a lot of really great takeaways from it. This season, we're actually exploring children authors, and I would like to interview again if it is that when it is that you do come up with another one of your books.
Yeah, of course.
But for now, we're just wrapping up. Thank you very much for being a guest on our program, and we look forward to having you again, and we wish you all the best in your endeavor.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me. And I can't wait to see the other interviews as well.
Okay, don't worry, we'll keep you updated.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you. You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.